What's up, Fort Knox? Welcome back to my channel. It is Thursday, so you know what that means. Yep, that means that there was a new episode of The Real Housewives. I'm kidding. The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Episode 10, season 10, episode 7. It's called Santa Denise. I can't talk this morning. I don't know what's going on. But you know what? This felt like a big filler episode until probably the end. So let's just get into it. Let's just get to the end of it because it did feel very much like a filler episode. So Dorit goes to Kyle's house. They're all meeting at Kyle's house so they can go to Santa Barbara for this trip that Kyle has planned in this house. I don't know where Dorit left her luggage. I'm used to her traveling a little bit heavier than this, but she's the first one at Kyle's house, and of course she is. She lives right down the street. But Kyle wants to just drop all the pettiness. She makes it a point that she's just like, I don't want to fight with you. We're friends, blah, 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 whatever. Dorita's just not having it. Dorit's like, yeah, but you said these things. And Dorit is really struggling to trust her, and rightly so, because that was a big accusation and she really did flip off on her. And I wonder if they can have a conversation and really get into this when there is not alcohol involved, because Kyle cannot handle her alcohol. It's just every time there's alcohol around and we get drunk Kyle, then a whole bunch of mess goes down and a lot happens, and then here comes the tears. We've talked about these tears already. Thank God there were no tears in this episode, because that is just not flying with me anymore. I just can't deal with these tears. It's a mess. They bring up the couples therapy. She's like, I didn't have couples therapy. She's like, well, you guys did go to therapy and it was a couple, But I think, do they really believe that these two are sexually involved? They're like, it's strange. I don't think they really think that, but they're like, there's something strange there. I don't think it's a sexual attraction, but I think they struggle because the two of them won't acknowledge it. It is fun playing with Kyle and Teddy. It's fun playing with the two of them and saying, making them think that, because it just kind of eggs them on, and I think they get some kind of pleasure out of seeing Kyle squirm, because Teddy for the most part doesn't say anything and she doesn't seem to be bothered by this. So then we cut to Garcelle, and Garcelle once again wants us to know that she is booked and busy, and she is, and I'm really excited for her because we haven't really heard a lot about what she's doing since before this Housewives thing, but she's producing things, she's hosting things, she is acting in things. I can't wait for Coming to America, because that is a cult classic, so I cannot wait for the second part of it. She's busy doing that and busy being a mom, and her kids for the most part understand her schedule, and thank God for that. But she's like, they're growing up so fast. And I'm like, you think? Because these kids are 12 years old, well, 13 now. And they look like they're like 16 to 17 years old, her twins. So then we cut back to Kyle's house, and Lisa Rinna arrives. And that damn dog, I don't know if this is the same dog, but Kyle has always got a dog running out of her house. Remember last season when the dog got out the gate and ran out the house and it's a mess, but then Rinna says, well, my dog's got into my mother's pills this morning, so it just goes to show you that somebody's always got it worse. She's like, if one of you dies, it's going to be your fault. So that there's a silver lining there. Erica arrives, and to me it's a little bit awkward after you've had a fight with somebody like a few nights before, a few days before, and unless you address it. I wish they would have shown how they ended the last episode at Erica's house with the dinner and all that stuff, because there had to be so much more said, and we do see later on in this episode that there was a little more said, the way that they edit things and they cut things out, but then they flash back to these things a little bit later. Erica's feelings are hurt. She said her feelings are hurt, and it just goes to show you, no matter how strong you are or how much, we learned in the last episode that she is an emotional person, but she is very logical also. But she's like, my feelings are hurt, but I'm not going to let that mess up a whole friendship just because my feelings were hurt this one time. And I think we need to do that as people, not think that our friend hurting our feelings one time is the end of our friendship. She's like, one bad night, but I'm only going to have, you only got a few bad nights in you, I'm going to let this go this time, but you only got a few bad nights out of me. So Denise is on set of Bold and the Beautiful, And she starts talking about how, she's playing this character that is very like kind of and sexual and all this stuff. And she's like, just because I played these characters, people think that that's who you are. Well, she is kind of like that. Well, maybe it's just because she's married to a hot guy and she talks about their sex life, and she is a little bit wild. But she says, you never know what's going on behind closed doors. And she mentions the fact that there have been red carpets where she's like, there was this one in particular where they were going to some award show and she and Charlie got into a fight in the limo, and then they got on the red carpet, and then 17 days later they were like, hey, we are getting a divorce. So you never know what's going on behind closed doors. Now, she mentioned they were in a fight, and I wonder to myself, were they in a physical fight? Like, was he abusive? I don't know all the history. I know there's a lot that happened in that marriage, but I don't really know exactly what happened. So is she talking about a physical fight that happened in the car? I'd be curious to know. But she's like, you put on a great face and then you move on. So off to Santa Barbara, everybody goes. They're going down this winding mountain. And if you've ever driven through LA, the winding hills and through the canyons and all that stuff, you will feel like you're about to fall off the side of a mountain to your death. And I don't know how more of this hasn't happened because there's no rails there. And they're in this Sprinter just going around. I thought that was really strange. And they're like, oh my God. But they're just winding around the road. Whatever. They get to this gorgeous home. And Sutton is... What did I say here? Oh, I know what I said. Sutton's not a hugger. It's so funny to me. I don't mind giving hugs now. I think I've grown a little bit better. But when somebody says, like, I'm a hugger, like these people, I'm a hugger, like, let me hug you, I'm a hugger. And I'm like, and they're like, are you a hugger? And then what if the person says no? And Sutton is very crass. She's like, no, I'm not, but okay. Even if I'm not a hugger, even though I'm not really, I will hug people. I don't mind giving people hugs. Well, I don't know. Now that after this quarantine, I don't know what we're going to be doing. Are we going to still be hugging people? People will still be going, I'm a hugger. Because no one's saying that right now. But Sutton is just funny to me. I appreciate Sutton for her honesty. So Denise still hasn't arrived. They're going to a wine tasting, and they decide to ride these arrays to the wine tasting. And if there's anything that's not clear, if it wasn't clear before that Sutton is afraid of everything and is not athletic, well, when they get on these arrays, she is absolutely a chicken. And it's funny to me, Erica says, there's something wrong with ours. Yeah, there is something wrong. The person who's driving it, that's what's wrong with it. But Teddy, even pregnant, is, Doris like, oh, I got the pregnant one. She says it as a joke, because that whole like pregnancy thing that Sutton brought up before when they were at Kyle's house. But the one person that I would love to be in one with is with even a pregnant Teddy, because Teddy is very scrappy, or not scrappy, very athletic and very like, rough around the edges, whatever. And because of that is very like the one person that you want to be with. And Erica's like, why does everything have to be competitive? Flashback to all the scenes where everything is competitive, and these women are competitive. They are very competitive. So everything's a competition. Side note, there was a charcuterie board when they got to, when they went to the wine tasting, and there's a dog licking it. I'm not a dog person, but I don't get you dog people that are into letting your dogs eat at the table. Dogs are nasty. Licking that crap is amazing. I'm probably gonna get some hate in the comments for that, but we just don't do that. Like over here, we don't do that. So it was crazy. The wine tasting with no bucket, because they're not spitting anything out. If you've ever been to a wine tasting, you're supposed to spit it out. They don't do that often, and so guess what happens? Drunk Kyle shows up. That's what happens when you don't have something to spit it out. So she's already getting kind of loose and whatever they call Garcelle, and people are jumping off the thing, whatever. This is, like I said, filler. And so then I wrote here, why don't these women get that just because you are wild and you talk about sex with your girlfriends, that you don't want to talk about it with your kids? They're just not getting that Denise, because they bring up the situation with Denise, and they don't get it, that she doesn't want to talk about sex around her kids. And Erica's like, they already know, like at 14 years old. I feel like Erica said something that's going to come back to bite her either at the reunion or someone's going to bring it up, even though it was kind of said in jest, like, oh, they probably already did it. I think that was probably an edit, and also something that you just kind of say like a playful thing. But I feel like Denise is going to watch this back and be pissed at the one, either the reunion or it comes up later on in the season. We'll just have to wait and see. But I know Erica doesn't mean it that way, but just kind of looks like a craft thing to say. Um, so Denise arrives and the vibe is awkward because you know how you walk into a place and everybody's kind of quiet and looking at you and you're like, were they talking about me before? I think Denise can handle it, but it definitely was given that vibe. Like she is they're quiet and they've all been talking about me. The conversation's all been about me. And Denise forecasts that we're gonna have a crazy night. She's just like, that's what's gonna happen. There's gonna be a crazy night with dinner time because this bunch. That's just the way it always is. Well, I've been sitting here waiting, and this has been this filler episode so far. So we get to dinner time, and this is where everything hits the fan. Erica is in her weight loss suit, which is cute, but it's hot as hell. They got pumpkin spice candles, and Erica's like at the table, and Erica's like, this is so white. It is a white thing, they always talk about a pumpkin spice latte. I have had a pumpkin spice latte just to try to see what it's like, and I get it. I understand what's going on. It actually tastes good. So white girls, I'm there with you. I get why you guys like the white pumpkin spice lattes. I don't like the smell of the pumpkin spice candle, whatever. Dorit asked Denise about her past characters and like Wild Things and, what was that like shooting, those scenes. And we know that Denise is, if you haven't seen Wild Things, it is also a cult classic, and it is something that it was very taboo at the time. The kissing scene, that scene, a lot of guys got off to that scene, and it was a big moment in time. And here comes messy ass Lisa Rinna. She's like, what's it like to shoot a threesome? And for some reason, Denise is not getting that even with like how she wasn't even trying to hide, like, wow, what was that like? Really? Like, it was so like not genuine at all. And Denise is, she's was raised very conservative. She was like, her parents weren't into it, and her mom told her dad to leave the theater. It was a very steamy scene, and I can see why she told her dad not to watch it. I get that. But the way that these women are asking these questions, how could she not get that they're like, threesome? What was it like to shoot a three-way? And what was it like? They're trying to push her to talk about it because they've been talking about it earlier, but she wasn't privy to that conversation, so I get why. Everyone's being so messy and sarcastic, and Denise is just completely unaware. It's just really funny to me. But Rinna's like, what happens when your girls see it? And Denise was like, I hope they won't see it. Well, Denise, I got news for you. Your kids will see it. First of all, it was a big deal, number one. Two, they're going to grow up and see it. Like, that's just, someone's going to tell them about it. And they're like, well, what's all this hype about? If they haven't already seen it. She's like, she is assured that they haven't seen it. But here's the thing. Your kid already knew about a three-way, and they laughed at it. And I think that's going to come up in the reunion also. The fact that she was making a bigger deal out of it than Sammy was. Like, oh, wait, it's okay, Mom. We just laughed it off. But Denise wants to make it known that she was offended by her kids knowing about this. And Denise is like, I hope they never see it. And Rinna's like, oh, yes, they will. Then we find out that Rinna basically taught her kids how to give head. What? See, it's very interesting to me. Just because you are free with your kids and you talk about sex with your girlfriends and you're very like sexual, whatever, and your kid, that's how you parent, don't expect everybody else to parent that way. And I think that's kind of unfair. I think they're being unfair to Denise. I'm on Denise's side in this one. Go down in the comments and let me know whose side you're on. I really would like to know in this situation, do you guys think just because you talk about sex and you're free with in your girlfriend group, that it's okay to just because people in your friend group are free with their kids, that you should be that way, or you should be judged because you're not? I would like to know what you guys think about that. So basically Kyle apologizes for, the way she went off on Denise, and Denise is not over it. Denise is just like, well, you said some harsh things, and here's the girls trying to apologize, and nothing's worse than when somebody's trying to apologize, and you realize that it's going to take me saying I'm sorry and me coming from a genuine place is not enough for you, that I'm going to have to really apologize. And see, this is the way I am. I'm going to apologize one time, and I'm going to be very sincere with my apology, because if I apologize, it's going to be sincere. But I'm not going to keep apologizing for the same thing. If you don't want to accept my apology and don't want to move on, then we're just not moving on at all. And it is very surprising that the women aren't getting that she doesn't want her kids to hear this kind of talk. Like are they crazy? Because they're really like, oh, you should be I don't know why they keep pushing this. But Denise shuts them down. We're not talking about it anymore. She shuts them down. And Teddy says that you want to shut everybody down, but you act like as if you're like easygoing and you don't care, and nothing's worse than somebody who is pretending to not judge you but judging you at the same time. They're the most they pretend to be so non-judgmental, but they are. I forgot what her exact words were. I meant to write that down, but I didn't. But she and Kyle are having this conversation. They're like, Teddy's like, she wants people to know that she's upset. You don't bring it up in 3 different situations to 3 different people and all these multiple times and say you don't care about it if you don't want it out there that you really care about it. And so she's really upset about it, and she wants us to know she's upset about it. So she wants us to feel bad about it. And that's also another thing. Like, you've brought it up, you really want somebody to feel bad, but you pretend like it's no big deal. Then, okay, if it's no big deal, why do you keep bringing it up to people? So that's why Kyle is calling everybody the FABs, the fake ass bitches. So the next morning, it's time for breakfast and all that strong coffee that Lisa Rinna made. Teddy is running pregnant. I admire her dedication. Teddy's like running with her pregnant self. Sutton was like, it was hard for me to sleep because there were so many unresolved issues. And here comes Lisa Rinna with her messiness. I'm telling you, Lisa Rinna exists on this show for one reason, and it's to stir the pot and to instigate. And I'm gonna tell you something, I'm here for it, because without it we would probably have a boring season like we did last year. So I'm good. I'm glad that the messy Lisa Rinna is back, because last season I don't know where she was, but we needed her because that season was boring and they beat that dead horse. So Lisa Rinna's like, let's get it all out. If you got an issue in this group, let's get it all out. Let's put it out on the table. So Dorit is just like, Kyle, you said that Erica isn't as close with me as I think, that was very hurtful. Like, she's just not as close as you think that we are. And she's like, well, I was upset. Well, you don't have that as a crutch, because just because you're upset doesn't mean that you say things that are hurtful that I do believe that you mean are true, and because you're drunk. And they say a drunk mouth speaks a sober heart, or however that goes. But those are sober thoughts, even though you got the liquid courage to say them. And Erica's just like, yeah, and you said to me that, I don't have real friends. I don't have true friends. And I told you that I thought that you were one of them. And you said, you brought up your anxiety. Well, I suffer with anxiety too. See, that's that flashback that we got that we weren't privy to before in the last episode. And it would have been nice to have that. So Kyle is like, her anxiety is like, okay, girl, I have anxiety too. So just because, you have anxiety, you went to couples therapy. But then finally, Teddy speaks up, because in all of this, you notice in all the other episodes, Teddy did not speak up about the fact that she was brought into this conversation. This problem that they have with Kyle is really, shading Teddy. And she's like, you shade me, Dorit. If you have a problem with Kyle, let that be with Kyle. But you shade me in these arguments, and I don't need to be brought in these conversations if your issue is with Kyle. But you say, oh, she's not as fun when she's hanging out with me. She's like, unless you just have a real problem and you just don't like me, and that's just what you want to do. You want to say all these hurtful things to me. And I absolutely agree with her, because in the process of shading Kyle, they have, and bringing all this stuff up to Kyle, they have been shading Teddy. And so thank God she finally speaks up. It's like, stand up for yourself, girl. What is your problem? If you notice, every single time she just sits back and just watches. And I get why she doesn't, because she doesn't want it to be that whole package deal thing. But you don't serve anybody if you're not standing up for yourself. So you just come off as being boring. So Kyle apologizes to Dorit, and she's like, your friendship is different with every person. She says it in the confessional, I think. She should just say this to these ladies. Yes, it is different. Your friendship is going to be different with other people. I acknowledge the fact that my friendship is different. I'm closer to this girl. I'm closer to Teddy. And that's all. And these women will drop it. I feel like if she just said that, the women would drop it. So, you know, she's like, we got that out. Like, you know, is there anything else that anybody wants to say? And Rinna feels like she was shut down, that we were all shut down by Denise last night. And she is right. Denise did shut it down. Rinna feels like she is... she feels like the kids, you want to make us feel bad. Like you're saying all of this because you want us to feel bad. And she's like, why don't, I don't get this. Like, why don't they get this? Why don't these women realize it's not just about me making you feel bad. It's about the fact that you had a conversation around my kids that, listen, this all would have been avoided if you know how this group is. Maybe she didn't think that it was going to be about threesome talk, but if you just had put the kids' table a few feet more away. And I feel like there's a little bit of guilt on Denise's part, where it's like, I've done all these crazy things in life and whatever, and I was married to Charlie and all this stuff. I'm not ready. You know, one day is coming up, but I'm not ready for these kids to find out about this stuff. It's a little too soon for me, and I'm a little guilty. Like, I hope they never find out about this stuff, because it's like hindsight is 20/20. If I'd known that my kids, if I wasn't thinking that my kids were going to one day grow up and see, you know, and hear about this stuff when it was actually happening. And now I have these kids, and it's like inevitable that it's going to happen. But the girls just don't get that she does not want to talk to her kids about this kind of stuff. And I think they want to push her to talk to her kids about it way too soon. Erica brings up that she put Aaron's pictures up on Instagram. And Denise was like, yeah, and I took it down because my daughter was embarrassed by it. So, you know, I'm not perfect, you know, but Erica's just like, I just feel like you guys want me. She's like, I just feel like you're making us feel like the bad moms. Nobody ever said anything about a bad mom. I love you to death, Erica. You know you're my favorite housewife. But nobody's calling you a bad mom. And side note, is Aaron half horse? Because I never really saw this picture, and then I Googled it, and I'm like, and they showed it on the show and didn't blur anything out. I see why she's always talking about how big he is. Is he half horse? I don't know. It's crazy. But Rinna's like, this is who she is. Like, this is who, you know, this is who Denise Richards is. Like, she's this wild girl, and like, what's going on. But what Denise doesn't get is like, why is Rinna being so hurtful? Like, I've known this is my friend of 20 years. Like, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of the reasons that she's on the show, is because of Lisa Rinna. And I feel like Lisa Rinna is not, in an effort to make good TV and an effort to be included in the rest of the group and be the shit starter, I feel like she is trying to, she is not being as good a friend to Denise as she should be to Denise. And she's like, so did you talk to him about the hookers? It's like, oh my God, like, where is all this coming from? It's so hurtful. And, you know, Erica also brings up, she's like, well, they had she's like, they had a hooker at Thanksgiving. It's a lot. I feel like this is not the last time that we're going to be talking about this, because let's just face it, these women can beat a dead horse. They do. They will beat a dead horse. This is not the last time we've heard about this in this season. In fact, next week is going to be even worse. I cannot wait for next week, because like I said, up until a certain point, this was a filler episode. But hey, I've still been talking about it for 23 minutes. So these ladies will keep you talking. Tell me what you guys think. Whose side are you on? Are you team Denise? Or are you team everybody else? What do you think of Kyle and Dorit's friendship? Is like, what do you think needs to happen? You know, I don't know. Tell me what you think. I want to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel, because I have every Thursday, I will talk about these girls, and I have other housewife shows that I talk about also, and beauty tutorials and all kinds of things on my channel. Make sure that you subscribe. I love you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. Oh, also, don't ask me where this top came from. This top is like 9 years old, so you can't get it in stores, but it is pretty. I know you guys are going to say it in the comment, but anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.